Former Clinton pollster advisor Mark Penn, California Congressman Darrell Issa, Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. Good to see you all. Congressman Issa, you were in there. Hopefully we'll get the transcript tomorrow. I just went over the problems with these FISA applications. Is it true the bulk of information came from the dossier that Christopher Steele doesn't even stand by?
That's exactly right, that it not only came from the dossier, but as you know, Christopher Steele hasn't been in Russia in 20 years. So even the people, the unknown people responsible for it, could easily have, in fact, been agents of the Russian government, which would mean that Hillary Clinton is the one guilty of the so-called collusion.
Well, that's a great irony there. You have been very critical, Mark Penn, of this process from the get-go here, as you should be. I believe if we have a dual justice system, I'm looking at taxi medallions, I'm looking at loan applications, I'm looking at tax violations. I'm not seeing any collusion here at all. This has gone so far. But I do see issues with Russia with Uranium One, and that is that we had a spy within that network, and we did have a lot of money kicked back in the end. Then I do see issues with this dossier because it's full of Russian lies. And the FBI used it as the basis of the FISA applications. And, in fact, they never verified it. What James Comey just said is false, because we know they didn't verify it because Steele doesn't stand by it.
Well, I typically urge all Americans to read the dossier, because anyone who actually reads the dossier understands that it's a joke document. It's a document filled with nonsense that couldn't possibly be true, that almost reads like an April Fool's joke. And now that we've spent, I don't know, $30 million, investigated almost everyone in a campaign in the administration, there's still no evidence of anything that one would call collusion, and certainly not related to the individual case. If anything, we're drifting more and more back to Monica Lewinsky days by talking about payments to Stormy Daniels and trying to take payments that are clearly not, campaign-related under the definitions that have been ruled by the FEC, and try to turn those into crimes that you associate the president with. It's that whole creep of the special counsel to get the president all over again.
And Tammy, it seems that Greg Jarrett explained it very well in terms of the law. And I watched the hysteria on TV, and they're saying campaign finance violations. Well, I've got campaign violations from '96 over here, and from 2008 over here, and from Bob Dole over here, and from Al Gore over here, and the biggest fine paid by Obama. My question to you is, as you look at where this has now gone, I mean, I feel bad for the men involved in the things that happened, but I feel that they're victims of what is selective prosecution and a political witch hunt that they got caught up in by no other reason that they like Donald Trump.
Well, look, this is why we're nervous when there's more regulations and more laws, because we pretty much wake up in the morning as Americans and we're breaking some kind of a law, but then it's selective about how it gets applied, but it's always kind of hovering over you. This entire dynamic, ranging from the dossier to what Catherine Herridge described about their writing and the filing that they just did, is fan fiction. And we're talking about criminal justice reform on one hand from the Trump administration, of course, and the American people see this fraud, this hoax being unleashed upon people in Washington, but we experience it also at the local level in our daily lives, whether it's the disenfranchised or people of color. This is a very chilling event. Americans recognize it. They do not like it, and it's up to the president to make sure this dynamic remains clear to the American people about what's happening to them.
He could still release the applications, the Gang of Eight information, the 302s, and the email chain. Do you believe, last question, Darrell Issa, we just had comments from James Comey. Do you believe what he said about the FISA warrants was accurate, or did he lie?
Well, he's certainly inaccurate. The idea that these things were anything other than falsely granted based on deceiving a federal judge is more laughable than what Mark said about the dossier itself. Ultimately, this dossier is what got them into a business of looking for a crime that didn't happen.
Unbelievable. All right. Thank you all.